All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to December's South End Landmark District's public hearing. Thanks, everyone, for waiting. We can get started now. John, if you could read the opening script. Oh, I think you're muted. I don't know if that's...
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
I'm having a problem with my
Audio. Okay. Okay, I'll start. Sorry. The time is now 5:35 p.m. and I'm calling to order the South End Landmark District Commission, December 2nd, 2025 public hearing. Commissioners present are Commissioner Christopher DeBoard, John Freeman, Peter Sanborn, and Catherine Hunt. Is that correct? Jackie, do we have anybody else?
Not that I see.
Okay, great. Today, the commission will be holding a public hearing to review applications in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, extending the suspension of these provisions until June 30th, 2027. We are conducting this meeting online. To ensure public access to the deliberations of the South End Landmark District Commission, the public may access this call through telephone and video conferencing. This hearing is being recorded. All further conversations between commissioners should be audible to the public in attendance until the hearing has adjourned. Are there any media or elected officials currently present? If so, please raise your hand using the Zoom meeting platform and state your name, title, and affiliation.
Okay, I don't see anyone on my end.
Okay, great. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. We will repeat these instructions throughout the hearing. Take a look at the agenda. Tonight's agenda consists of design review, administrative review, advisory review, ratification of the November 4th meeting minutes, staff updates, and then adjournment. And we'll go right into design review. And the first application is 1651 Washington Street. The proposed work is to install a new 65-inch by 19-inch hanging sign with halo lit letters spelling out JAHO and non-illuminated letters on box. New 36-inch by 10 3/4 inch blade sign with no illumination. So if the applicant is here, please present your application to us. And give your full name before you start.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, my name's Robert Tuttle. I'm from NE Neon, the sign company, representing JAHO. We applied for this last month, and there was changes that were requested to be made, and we made all the changes that were requested. We lowered the sign to underneath the overhang. We reduced the size to the size suggested. And then we removed the illumination on the coffee roasters and bakery. And also we removed the illumination from the blade sign. It was requested that the landlord possibly come up with a sign plan for the building. And we requested that from him, and he said he did not want to make a sign plan. He said he would be happy with what the city approves. So I guess that's it.
Okay. Robert, did you describe the blade sign?
Yeah, it's a it's a hanging blade sign, which would hang under the overhang, so it doesn't block any of the detail work on the header. And I don't have the dimension. I think it's 19 inches by 65. And the pink letters are halo lit, so that the illumination would come out the back onto a backer, the white backers. And then the coffee roasters and bakery are just going to be acrylic letters on the face of the small box, non-illuminated.
Okay.
They have another location on Newbury Street. This is the exact sign that they have on Newbury Street, except the one on Newbury Street is, I believe it's Newbury Street, that's curved. This is basically his logo. So
Okay. Looks like you might have to fix a setting on your dimensioning.
Yeah.
It says, yeah, I noticed that. I did try to upload today. I noticed that the scale was off, and it showed it being 3 inches tall or something like that. I did correct it, and I uploaded on the portal a corrected version of that.
Okay.
And I have the
Let me,
numbers here.
I can pull that up really quick if the commissioners would like to take a look at that.
It's
just
okay. That's fine. It's 80 inches to the bottom of the coffee roasters and 90 inches to the bottom of the blade sign. That's my software that I use. If I change the scale on one of the drawings, it affects all of them.
Commissioners, I don't know if you could see that now. But this is, Bob, if you can confirm this is what you submitted.
Yes, it is. Yep.
Perfect.
Okay. Is that all you're showing us, Jackie?
That is the only thing I received. I believe that was the updated plans that Bob submitted
today. Great. So we'll go to commissioner questions first and then comments after the questions. Chris, do you have any questions?
The other question I have is the blade sign hanging in the pilaster? Is that attached to the pilaster? And I believe they're wooden.
It's going to hang underneath the overhang of the, I guess you'd call it the soffit, or.
Yeah, I'm talking about the smaller blade sign that just says that's not illuminated.
Yeah, the smaller blade sign is going to go in the base of the sign will go in between, just like the next door neighbor has their sign, the pylon sign. I'm sorry, the blade sign goes in between the molding. It doesn't hit the molding at all. It goes on basically the flat part of the face of the building.
Okay, it's mounted to the pilaster. Okay, thank you.
Right.
Okay.
That's it.
Catherine, any questions?
Just pardon me, just a quick one. Jackie, could you show the slide that I think indicates a night view?
That might be a little misleading because on my software, it only allows you to darken the areas around, because really there's no light projecting from the front. So
yeah, that was what I was wondering.
Yeah, the light on the top, you probably won't see that because, like I said, the light is projecting back to the white pillow backer. If anything, you're just going to see the reflection from the bouncing off.
But the letters are illuminated.
Correct? No, they're not. No, the letters are pink. So Unfortunately, my software, that's
I see. Okay.
the only way I could do it. No, the letters would actually probably be dark because at night you don't see the
So,
color from the
right.
face.
So the JAHO is the same at daytime and nighttime.
Yes, it's
Okay.
JAHO's. It's a steel letter, aluminum letter with
Okay.
painted.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks. That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Peter, any questions?
No, I don't have any.
Okay, John?
My question was the same as Catherine's, and I guess it's been answered, but I still don't understand how the halo works. The face of the letters has to be solid.
The face of the letter and the returns, the sides, are solid steel or aluminum. I think they're aluminum.
So what is the light being reflected from?
The light is on the inside of those letters facing backwards towards the door. And about an inch and a half behind those letters is a white pillow. If you look at, there's a detailed drawing on the other page.
I'm looking at it, yeah.
Yeah, see the white border? That is a pillow backer, which is actually, I can't see from my, how many inches. It's about an inch and a half, maybe, or an inch behind the letter. So the lights inside the letter will shine onto the backers. So you'll see the glow, basically the glow around the letter.
So the backer is the shape of the letter also.
Right. It's just offset, maybe a half an inch larger than the letters. It's something for the light to bounce off of.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Actually, that response, Robert, answered my question. So now we'll go to comments that commissioners might have. Chris, any comments?
No.
Catherine, comments?
Just thank you, Robert, for hearing our comments last time. And this is
Sure.
this is a lot better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that was it, Catherine?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. John?
Yeah, I think it does seem to be meeting everything that we said last time. So
Okay.
that's good. Thank you.
Peter?
Ditto, John and Catherine.
I'm sorry?
Ditto, John and Catherine. Thanking him for being responsive to our comments.
Yeah. Same. I wasn't here last month, but it's always nice to see applicants come back with things that respond to comments they received. I have a question for my fellow commissioners. The staff recommendations say that the proposed signage over the door could be reduced in size to better fit within the storefront entry. Is that, am I looking at old comments from last month, or is that the comment?
No, we did make it smaller. It was 80 some odd inches, I believe.
Yeah.
But
Staff,
I can't
can-
find the current staff recommendations. I'm on Slack.
So
Is it-
that currently is last month's recommendation.
Oh,
That is an element of it. But the other sort of the basic motion is updated.
right.
Where
the
is
size
the staff recommendations for me are blank.
It's in the email, John, that gives the Zoom link.
Oh, it's not on the.
Well, that's what I opened, but it looks like it's last month's recommendation, not the current one. Am I?
No, these are the current applications, John.
Yeah, they are. But anyway, it said that staff recommended that the sign scale be reduced to better fit within the molded banding running across the storefront entry. But if you all are satisfied that it responded to comments, I won't say anything further. I will ask Jackie if you can go back to the measured drawings of the signs. I just want to point out that, again, all of the dimensions on that JAHO sign are incorrect. The lettering is a half an inch tall. The whole sign is 3 inches tall.
The new drawing I have should be this correct sizes.
Right, but Jackie said the only drawing that she had was
Okay, you're
was
right.
did not include this drawing.
Correct. You're right.
So
I only uploaded the elevation drawing, the rendering drawing.
right. So I recommend that my comment would be that all of these drawings with dimensions on them should be updated with the correct dimensions and resubmitted to staff.
I have those dimensions here in front of me if you would like me to read them to you. We went from 84 inches wide to 60. Hold on a second, 65. Let me turn this light on, sorry. The initial was 84 inches wide. We brought it down to 65 inches wide. And then the original height was 24 inches tall, 24 and a half. I'm sorry, 24 and 3/4. And it's been brought down to 19 and 1/8.
Okay. And what about the blade sign? Can you just tell us the dimensions of the blade?
Yeah, the blade sign stayed the same. It was, bear with me. 38 inches tall, 10 and 3/4 inches wide.
And how 38 inches by what width dimension?
2.5 inches, 2.5 inches wide.
That's not the dimension I'm asking for. It's
I'm
38
sorry.
high by
10 and 3/4.
Thank you. Okay, that's great. If commissioners agree with my comment, I think we're ready for a motion.
I'd be happy to load this up in the morning. Obviously, I'm not at the office now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that can be a proviso, Robert. So not to worry.
Well, I'm going to make a motion that we accept this updated revised plan and move forward with it with the proviso that the updated drawings and measurements are included for the staff review.
Second.
So we have a motion. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Catherine. We have a motion. It's been seconded, and we can go to public comment now. Members of the public will now have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on the application and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand via the Zoom meeting platform. If you are calling in and cannot use the platform, you can press *9 to raise your hand, or you can send your questions to staff via email at southendldc@boston.gov. Jackie, do we have anybody raising their hands, or did you receive any written comments?
Nothing that I see on my end, and no written comment that we received.
Thank you. So we'll go right to a vote then. Catherine?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And the chair votes with the motion, so the motion carries. Thank you very much, Robert.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Likewise, back at you.
Jackie, I'm still not finding the staff comments. Are they not in the portal?
I don't believe we updated them to the portal, but we did submit them. We sent an email to you guys
I get so
4
many
days ago.
emails. I have 2 from you, but I don't see them in the email.
It's
can
way at
forward
the
that to
bottom of
you.
the email, John. Way at the bottom.
I'll forward that to you really quick.
Thank you. I
Below the
appreciate that.
Zoom link.
All right, I see below. I'm looking at different emails. Yeah, if you
Jackie,
could just
send it
forward
to
it to
me
me,
as
that'd
well,
be.
please. This is
Oh, it was an attack. No, that's
Peter?
Say that again, Peter.
also send that to me as
It's
well,
helpful if
please.
they're in the portal because then everything's organized.
Will do.
Mm.
To
Sure,
each his own.
Well, it's just if it's consistent, I can find it.
Well,
I didn't go looking for it before the meeting. Thank you. I just got it.
Okay,
We can go to the next application now. 560 to 562 Tremont Street. The proposed work is to replace non-original railings on the front stairs with railings that are building code compliant. And if the applicant is here, please give us your full name and present your application to us.
Okay, my name is Sheila Grove. I'm the owner of the property. I've been a resident of the South End for 50 years and been involved in design review and all sorts of things. I was executive director of Washington Gateway Main Street for 10 years, one of the founders, and we did all those medallions and historic panels. Had a great committee of people work on that and put those at the Silver Line stations. So I'm a big, and we got a national award, the Great American Main Street Award from the National Trust. So I'm with you guys as far as keeping the historic character of the neighborhood. But I'm older now, and I'm seeing that this handicapped stuff is important. And so the railings on this building do not meet code. They mostly are missing balusters. They also don't go all the way up to the building. I don't know why they were cut off. They've been on the building since I bought it, and I think that was in the 80s. I think that's when I bought the building.
Sheila, do you have an application that you can present us, or Jackie, do you have it? While Sheila's talking, if we can look, that would be great.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
That's the building. That's what it looks like now. That's the railings they've been on as long as I've had it. Like I said, Rachel gave me a picture of those 1971 ones that the Historic Society did for, and it had those railings on it. My proposed railing is the next one. It's a railing that I saw on Waltham Street. There's a similar railing to that on SHAWMUT Avenue and other ones around the neighborhood. I assumed that you had approved it because it's not the building, and it's not original. But I would be happy to do anything that is code compliant. But what I'm looking for safety here. And right now that railing that's on the building is not safe. You know, a kid could fall under it, and there isn't any on this building, and also on my building. If you look back at 562, there is no adjacent.
Can you go backwards, Jackie? Thank you.
There's no adjacent stairs. You know, sometimes your stairs are lined up right next to somebody else's stairs.
Double stairs.
In this case, these are standalone stairs. So on both sides, there's a potential for a drop from the top stairs of, you know, probably 15 feet anyway. It's just not safe. So I'd like to, you know, this I thought was a nice design. This is what I gave to Forte Ironworks, and this is what they do for me. I've had them do other work for me. I think that they do a nice job. You're probably more familiar with like what the materials are and everything, but they do a nice job. If you have any suggestions about, you know, that this isn't the right materials, the best materials or anything, I'm happy to go with it. But I would like you to, you know, approve at least the concept now, and maybe I can work with the staff or something to get a design if you don't like this one. I kind of like it because it's got some little bit of detail to it, but it's not, you know, it doesn't have too much, but it's really your call.
Okay, thank you, Sheila. So we'll go with commissioner questions first, and then comments after that. Catherine, any questions?
yes. Hi, Sheila. I'm a little puzzled. I went over there. So the application says 560 and 562. Is the image you're showing only 562? And the other address is Frenchie's Restaurant, correct?
Right. Yeah.
So you're not doing anything there.
Nothing to Frenchie's. No, it's
Okay.
just to the stairs here. That's the only ones. And then
Gotcha.
stairs lead to a retail space above and also
Yeah.
the residence.
I see. And thank you for this image, because right now there are garlands on the
Oh, right, yeah.
on the rail, so I couldn't get a good look. This is very helpful. Thank you. Thanks, John.
Yeah, we had a pop-up
Okay.
going in there for the holidays.
Chris,
So the question, or the right, yeah, questions. The stairway that goes down there with the different railing, is that to the Frenchies or to a retail space?
That's to Frenchies.
Okay. So originally these stairs probably had the running rows on it or something like that because they don't have the side walls. I'm just mulling
Yeah,
this around, but
it's hard to know what it was. I noticed a few doors down that they have something that looks more original, but I have no idea what was really here. And this was owned by, they had a Chinese laundry downstairs before we bought it, and they owned it for like 20 years anyway.
I
Yes,
appreciate the longevity and the attention to all this as well. I just have a lot of things mulling in my mind. So let's go on to the next commissioner, if we could, John.
Yep. Yeah, we'll come back to you for comments, Chris. John, questions?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Peter, any questions?
Yeah, it may be addressed on this in the specs, but the print's so tiny I really can't read it. Are these aluminum or iron railings?
I thought that they were steel. Oh, well, I can't. I mean, I'm sure that what are they made them out of? Sorry.
This would typically be made of steel, but it could be made of aluminum. So I think that's the root of Peter's question.
I think it's probably steel. That's what they did. I've got them, did some work in my backyard, and I can't really read this.
I'm looking at it too, and I'm not seeing any material identified. Sizes and colors are there, but I'm not seeing material.
Sheila, the issue is the steel is heavier. The verticals would be solid, whereas if it were aluminum, those vertical posts, the 3 vertical posts, are probably hollow, and it's a less sturdy, less secure, and less durable railing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just pulled this off. I don't know that I can get my hands on it really fast on the thing, but I would definitely, I want steel, I think. I think that's what I would want, right?
I think you would want steel, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so, I could double check with them. I mean, if this design's okay with you, and just make sure that it's gonna be steel. 'Cause
Actually,
I think that's what they do.
Peter's steel posts can be hollow too. They can be tube.
Okay, well, this one looks like it says it's a tube there.
Yeah,
So,
it says tube, but that doesn't necessarily mean aluminum. And a steel tube is still very sturdy. I think once you go over 1 inch, they make them tubular rather than solid.
okay. I mean, these guys are good, I think. So,
But nevertheless, steel is still more sturdy than aluminum.
okay.
Okay, so did you have any further questions, Peter?
No, not at this time. Thanks.
Okay, so I don't really have any questions because I think my questions have been answered by the other answers you've given. So we'll go to comments. Catherine, do you have comments?
Well, I suppose others are going to address the same thing, and that is the installation of the rail into the step as opposed to on the cheek wall. So I'll let
there are no cheek
There are
walls.
no cheek walls.
I'm sorry, on the side.
Right, exactly. But yeah, this is an unusual condition, Kathy. I
Yeah.
grant you that.
Yeah.
So
I'll let others address it. Clearly, I don't know what I'm talking about.
I
But you know,
I have to say, I
Okay.
don't know what you're talking about either.
you, it'll all be made
I know
clear,
what you
Sheila.
mean. I know what you mean. Sometimes you have the thing going down the side.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
It'll-
this
it'll-
doesn't have it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it'll all
all
be
it
made
has is the
clear.
post at the bottom. Yeah.
Okay, so John, do you have any comments?
So I think we can say that the railings can be replaced. They're certainly not original. But I'm having a little trouble talking tonight. My voice is worn out, so I think I'll defer to Commissioner Amadeo for the design of the railing, but I do think it needs a lot of work.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. Chris,
I'm kind of in the same way too. I would like to see something at least maybe even familiar with the railing going downstairs as to get some continuity in there. And it is a little bit of an anomaly. This, like I said, this probably had a running rose and a post which were installed into the stairs, and so that would be common for this kind of stairs without a cheek wall. I agree that the design needs a little help. And that's I think that's where we are on that. But the installation in the stairs in this sense, I think, is appropriate because that's how the running rose would have been on stairs without cheek walls.
okay, thank you, Chris. Peter, comments?
No, I have none.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll take this on. I agree with Chris that, you know, given the absence of cheek walls, we really don't have much of an option but to allow the posts to be inserted into the treads. I think, and Sheila, there is a reason that we are concerned with that. With brownstone steps are weak and they can be easily split by freeze thaw if water gets into a crack. And typically the drill holes for the posts are an invitation for water to get down in there and potentially freeze and potentially crack the step. And we don't want to see that.
That's why I had that design has the lower rail so that you don't have to have, you know, you have to have the balusters have to be 4 inches apart according to code. That's
Right,
how
I understand.
Separation. So if you have a rail at the bottom, then you don't have to have, you know, all the balusters going into the stairs.
Right, but you still have a top, a middle, and a bottom post that will go into the treads. And so, you know, similar to what you've got now, except you'll just have more pickets in between. So my recommendation would be that you talk to your fabricator and ask them to create an escutcheon plate, which is like a little, you know, 2 inch, maybe 2.5 inch, 3 inch diameter or square plate with a hole that the post goes through that hugs tight to the post and covers the hole that's drilled into the step to receive the post. And of course, the hole gets filled with non-shrink grout to hold the post firm within the step, but you don't want to see that grout at the top. And you don't, the grout can, despite the fact that it's non-shrink, can sometimes shrink and let water inside. So the escutcheon plate will protect it. So I recommend that. And I think there are a number of things about the design of the rail that we have to talk about. And staff has also pointed out there aren't really historic models for this style of rail. I think simpler is better, and maybe just having the pickets without the rail below, the second rail immediately below the handrail, and without the intermediate shorter pickets that are within the top rail and the second rail, and just have a simple top rail with pickets, you know, 4 inches apart, as you said. And then at the top and the bottom, rather than just have, you know, the saw cut end of the of the top rail. Well, let's talk about the top rail. The top rail is identified as a 1x2 rectangle tube. I recommend that you ask your fabricator to go to a Lawler catalog and get a molded cap, a molded top rail, which is much more in keeping with the character of the neighborhood rather than just a plain rectangular tube. And at the ends of the rail at the top or the bottom, there should either be a volute or a lamb's tongue that will give a nice finish to the top and bottom of the rail.
Could you say that again? A lamb's tongue or a what?
Or a volute, VOLUTE. And there are examples of those throughout the neighborhood because we've approved railing designs that have either a lamb's tongue or a volute. I think if you were to just simply have the top rail with a molded rail and then the volute or lamb's tongue extend down, that would be approvable, along with the just plain pickets without a second rail and the interim shorter pickets. And then to put in the escutcheon plate around your 3 posts that will go through the steps. It would be ideal if you could have your fabricator use the same locations so that they don't have to drill new post holes into the steps. If you can go back to the photograph of the property, Jackie, right there. So if it's possible, if your fabricator agrees that those 3 post holes would be, structurally adequate for the railing, then it would be better to just use the same holes rather than drilling new holes. So those would be my provisos, with a final proviso that there be a scaled drawing done of your steps with the actual rail, because the railing drawing that you have doesn't match the steps that you have. It doesn't go horizontal for half your railing and then follow down. This is just a generic railing design that your fabricator gave you. It doesn't actually match your steps. So if we can get a cross section through the actual steps with the actual railing on it as a drawing, I'm sure your fabricator would be able to provide that for you.
You said a cross section with actual.
Actually to scale, just showing a cross section through the steps that are to scale. That show the front of the house, the steps going down, the final step, the sidewalk, and then the railing going down the steps.
Okay. Okay, and you'd like that better than somebody mentioned about the railing going down to Frenchie's. I had thought originally of trying to match that.
Well, Chris made that suggestion, but honestly, the railing going down to Frenchie's, it does not match any kind of historic model that we have in the neighborhood other than ones that we haven't approved. And the hoops under the rails, the circles under the rail is not a model that we like to encourage more of. At some point, that railing will need to be replaced, and hopefully it can be done in a simpler, more appropriate style.
Okay, maybe to match the one I'm going to put in on there.
Yeah, maybe you can encourage that railing to be replaced to match the one that you create.
Okay. All right, that sounds good. Can I work with staff on this, or do I have to come back?
You don't have to come back as long as you can get a measured drawing to the staff and make sure that the material is identified in the measured drawing as steel.
Okay.
And staff is taking notes too, Sheila. So I think they will be helpful in filling any gaps that you might have in your own notes.
Okay, that's great. Okay, because I kind of wanted to read these back, but if staff has them, then I can make sure that I've got them right.
Sheila, also, we do post like recordings of these hearings pretty shortly after the hearing concluded within the following couple of days. So that will be accessible to you, and staff would be happy to send you a link of that as well.
Oh, great. That'd be fabulous. Thank you.
So with that, I am ready to hear a motion. Any brave souls out there?
Nope.
I think the
But,
motion
John,
can
John,
simply
before we go
say
to it,
approved with provisos as already described by Commissioner Ramadeo, if you don't want to repeat all of those descriptions. Yeah, Peter?
before we go to a motion, your comments elicited some further thoughts I had. So,
Please.
Jackie, could you go back to the existing conditions photo? So my comment would be, given that there doesn't appear to be any, at least from these photos, any real landing, deeper landing at the top by the entry doors, should the railing simply be a straight diagonal run up? I think there are precedents for that in this type of open stair without cheek walls, where they just go straight and there's no flat return at the top.
He mentioned that in the drawing they didn't follow the stairs.
Oh, yeah, but I think what Peter's talking about is just a little 1 foot return at the top step. Does it go flat or does it just follow the angle? Actually, if you go to the photograph of the precedent that Sheila provided,
It goes right to
it
the
just
wall.
goes straight diagonally up to the building. It doesn't level off just even a little bit at the top. And that's
Right.
what Peter is suggesting, right, Peter?
That's correct.
I would concur with you, Peter. I think that's a good observation. I don't think there's a need for it to level off at the top.
I wanted to go all the way and attach to the building, and I haven't measured the height here. I know that there's a height thing, but the transition from the door to the railing right now, there's a space, and that's not good. And
Right.
it should be higher, you know what I mean? Because what I'm looking for is safety.
Sure.
So it should.
Can you go back to the, Jackie, to the photograph of the existing conditions? Yeah. So when you say attached to the building, I think you just mean that you want the railing to be as close to the building as possible, but you're not going to actually mount into the building, right?
Probably not. That doesn't sound like a good idea, especially after you mentioned about the pilasters or whatever.
Right. It's hard to know. Do you know, can you tell me what the material is of the door surround? Is that stone or wood?
It's stone.
It's stone. So I
Hey,
think we would want you to avoid attaching into the building face.
Okay, that makes sense.
But you can have your fabricator get as close to the building as possible.
Okay.
So, and a measured drawing of that would help everyone. So staff particularly. So how about try it a motion? I'll help.
I'll make an attempt. We approve the replacement of a new railing on both sides of the steps. The railing should be, the material should be steel. The design should be simplified from what the applicant presented, whereas it's just, if possible, 3 posts, structural posts with a top and bottom rail only, and with intermediate rails between those two rails as proposed at 4 inches,
You
that
mean
there would be
pickets, right?
no,
Intermediate,
excuse me, John,
intermediate pickets, not rails, right?
intermediate pickets, that there would not be a decorative secondary rail below the top rail, so that the design is just a picket design that runs from the bottom rail to the handrail. And the handrail be modified not to be a square or rectangular rail, but to have a OG type of decorative element to it. And that at the end points of the rail, bottom and top, there either be a lamb's tongue treatment or a volute, and that if possible, that the existing holes in the steps are used for the 3 supporting posts. And there should be revised drawings submitted to staff at scale for staff review and approval.
Peter, that was amazing, but I have one small amendment to recommend, and that is to include escutcheon plates at the bottom of each post to cover the post hole. To protect
Accepted.
the steps. You accept that? That was a yes?
I do, yes.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and it's been seconded, so we will go to public comment. Members of the public will now have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on the application and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand via the Zoom meeting platform. If you are calling in and cannot use the platform, you can press *9 to raise your hand, or you can send your questions to staff via email at southendldc@boston.gov. And do we have any written comments?
No
Not
written
in
comments.
any raised hands, and we did not receive any written comments.
Hey, Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
Hey, John.
We'll go to a vote then. In the absence of public comment, Peter.
Aye.
Okay, Chris.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
And the chair votes with the motion, so the motion carries. Thank you very much, Sheila. It's nice to hear you, and and
Yeah,
and
we'd
good-
like to see you.
We'd love to see you.
I don't think I'm allowed. Am I allowed to be seen?
Of
Yes,
course you are.
Really? I
You
didn't see
are. Yeah.
of
I thought I
course.
did- That
Um,
was blocked off. I'm not seeing it anywhere.
you were a regular at our meetings for many years. It's just nice to see you back.
Right.
Um,
Okay. Thank you. It's nice to see you guys still doing a good job.
Yeah. Okay. Good luck with the project, Sheila.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
Okay.
absolutely.
And you can work with staff from here out.
Okay,
Um,
perfect. Thank you.
So you're welcome. So we'll go to the next design review application at 33 Greenwich Park. And the work is to install decorative sconces at the entryway pilasters. And if the applicant is here, please give us your full name and then present to us your application.
I'm not seeing any raised hands on my end.
Oh.
Hmm.
Hmm. Did you have a name?
We had a couple of project representatives that I was in contact with.
Huh.
Let me.
Yeah, I'll shoot them a quick email, Jackie.
Should we go to the next one? And if they show up, we can come back to them?
I think that could be good. That can give Rachel time to send an email out to them.
Okay. So the next application is 56 Rutland. And
Where?
the proposed work is to install a roof deck. There's also additional items under administrative review. If the applicant is here and would like to tell us about the roof deck, please go ahead, but you don't need to describe the items under administrative review. And please give us your full name before you start.
Hi, this is Guy Grassi with Grassi Design Group. I'm just trying to get my camera on. I don't know why it's not
Welcome, Guy.
letting
Good
me.
to see you again. Well, almost see you.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not, this is weird. It says you cannot start your video because
Try
it
it
is
again,
disabled.
Guy, if you can.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's disabled by the host is what it says. There we go. There I am. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Guy.
How are you guys tonight? Let me get, I wasn't quite ready for this. Let me get my
It's summer again.
present. It's in the tropics here. In the back bay.
That's my view from my bedroom.
All right, let me get the, can I screen share? Is that, all right, can you all see my screen now?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. Let me get the presentation up. Oh, on 56, hang on a sec. Here we go. All right. So this is a townhouse that's exposed on one side with the backyards of the buildings on Columbus Ave on Rutland Square. Let me get all the pictures the same size. Get rid of all this crap. There we go. Sec. Why am I not able to? Anyway, well, you can see the photos, I guess. This is the facade here. You can see the open space next to us in the rear of the buildings on Columbus Ave. The project is to put a roof deck on. There's an existing roof deck. Everything else has been approved administratively, so I'll skip to that part. You can see the exposure here. There's a little garden wall. And then moving farther away. This is probably a good photo. I wish it was bigger. This is a Google Earth photo. So you can see the current deck that's up there. It's quite a dilapidated deck with a, I don't know, 4.5 foot high, 5 foot high fence that's fallen apart. It's got a hatch here and skylights and all this business. You can see this existing fence from the public way. So here is the, these are the mock-up photos. So that is the existing fence. You can see the existing fence here that encloses the deck. The yellow line is our railing of our proposed roof deck, which is inset from the edge, but I'll show you the drawings in a second. And then if you, from this view, you can't see the proposed head house. It's not a head house, it's a bulkhead with a hatch. But as you move I guess, further east, you can start to see the bulkhead right here. This is the orange is the mock-up of that bulkhead. Again, you can see the hatch currently, I mean, the fence currently. The fence obviously goes away, and then our proposed bulkhead will be visible. So what's proposed is ironwork where this, you know, just simple ironwork where that line is in lieu of the wood fencing, and then a bulkhead here in lieu of the wood fencing in this area. This is the plan. Let me back out. So that is the roof plan. Well, I guess I can probably zoom in just to help you see it. There we go. So this is the front of the house. This is that exposed side. I guess that's really to the west, north being in this direction. And the line of the existing deck you can see right here, this dashed line. So that's the fence line that you're seeing, and it comes up and around and goes like that and back again and comes back down to here and runs across. Our proposed deck is here and just in from the edge of the existing chimney, and it runs to the rear 5 feet from the back. We'd like to put the bulkhead in this location because it's over the stair that goes all the way down. There's a beautiful old circular stair. That's the original stair to the house, very typical South End stair that we're saving. And it makes the most sense to bring the stair up to the roof in that location rather than offsetting it. And again, I don't think the bulkhead is any more visible than the fence that you're seeing currently. Then we have the iron fence, the iron railing here of the deck. Just about in the same location as the existing wood fence. It's a little bit lower. And that turns the corner and runs back. We do need to run the metal fence alongside the bulkhead a bit because this is a hatch that opens from this end and it pivots up. And so as you're going down the stairs, you have to have some fall protection until you get at least 3 feet down from the deck. So we have to continue that railing right alongside the bulkhead, close to the edge of the roof. It's about 6 inches in, you know, from the edge of the roof. The deck comes to about 4.5 inches in from something like that. And then this is obviously a sloping situation. The heat pumps we're proposing here, that's been mocked up and they're not visible from across the street or from any place. But you do see this railing just a bit, and you see a bit of this bulkhead, the side of that bulkhead in the mock-up. This is the sight line from across the street, and you can see why none of this is visible from straight across the street. So it's only at that angled view as you get out towards Columbus Ave, and you look at an angle that you see any of this business. And I don't know if anybody's had a chance to go out and see the mock-up. Here's the side elevation. So this is that big blank exposed wall. You're seeing the side of the bulkhead right here, and I'll zoom in a bit on that. We were proposing to just clad that in rubber membrane roof so it's black and it's dark. We could clad it in copper. It'll be a little brighter and I think a little bit more visible if we do that. The ironwork, of course, would all be painted black, the railing system. And then you're seeing the edge of the deck here, which none of that is visible. We don't see this in the mock-up, but I think there might be an angle. If you get exactly in the right spot, you might see a little bit of this side and this railing back here. And then you're seeing the sloping hatch all below the top of the railing system. So I think in general, it's a cleanup of the mess that's up there, and what we're proposing is less visible than what's there. Ideally, I would have put this hatch a little bit further in, but it just really screws up the floor plan inside because it wouldn't be over the main stair. So it means we have a stair next to the stair in a, you know, somewhat narrow townhouse. Other than that, everything else was approved administratively. The front of the house is being restored. We're keeping this has original windows that are in quite good shape, which is kind of remarkable. We're replacing the storm windows, but that's all, again, been approved administratively. And then this is what you're seeing from the front. You're seeing that bulkhead way to the rear of the building, you know, closer to the back edge, and the heat pumps and the railing system. So that's really it. You know, if you want to go back to those mock-up photos, this is kind of what tells the story. It's that.
So,
And these are zoomed in, by the way. This is not what you see from the naked eye, you know.
Guy, I'm going to ask commissioners if they have any questions. So I think we've got your full presentation pretty much.
Yes.
And then we'll see if we have any comments, although this is likely to go to subcommittee. But we'll go through the process anyway. Chris, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I have a lot of comments.
Okay. John, any questions? John Freeman?
Sorry, I didn't realize it's muted. Yeah, if you could look at the plan for a second, I just want to clarify one thing.
Sure.
And then I have another question. So you showed the dotted line that says remove 5-foot tall fencing. And that is not as close to the edge as the hatch is, or am I misreading that line?
Well, yeah, this is the line of the fence, and then the fence comes over here.
Okay.
The existing fence.
The existing fence.
So the new railing is all the way over to the edge.
And yes, that's correct. The new railing system is all the way over to at the edge, because again, that's where the stair is below.
Well, only at the back.
Yes.
Right, only at that back section.
And here it is. Here's the orange. That's the mock-up of that bulkhead.
So I have a question which is borderline comment. Since I think visibility is clearly the issue that the subcommittee will be dealing with. In your section, you show that your 80-inch clearance is about 8 risers down from the or 8 or 9 risers down from the top. So I think those are probably steep risers. Could this hatch turn 90 degrees at that 80-inch clearance point? So you didn't have to have that section near the wall?
I mean, the problem is it's just, yeah, I mean, if you would have to, if you turned, I mean, here's your stair. If I think I understand what you're talking about. You're talking about putting a landing here.
Or at some point where so that you still have your clearance.
Right. Well, if you put a landing here, I've got to have a roof that's here, right at the edge.
Well, that might be more acceptable than the edge of the hatch and the railings. Just a thought. It was a question in the form of a question.
No, you could, but you'd still have a box right here, you know, that would be close to the edge of the roof. And then, and then of course, the problem with all that is that I'm losing headroom inside because I would turn the stair and then go the other way. And, you know, so you'd still have an object right there. Yeah.
Just something to think about. We'll see what this, I think John is right that it will go to subcommittee.
Yep. Okay. And we'll come back. I'm sure we'll have a good discussion during the comment section. Catherine, any questions?
Yes, and one is probably for the commission. You know, I stood there on the street just the other day and looked up. I couldn't see any evidence of any deck or any mock-up or anything. I mean, I don't know how you got that photo, Guy. Were you standing up in a cherry picker or something?
No, you have to zoom in, and there's only you got to really zoom in to see it. Because to see this, you got to be out on the Columbus Ave sidewalk, so it's pretty far.
Well, and that's part of my question. What actually has to be taken into account here from where for visibility? Because when you stand down there on Rutland Square and look up, you don't see any evidence of any roof deck. So all the talk about move this 6 inches or blah, 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 I think it's premature because unless we, you know, get out there and say, oh, well, we have to judge visibility from somewhere other than Rutland Square, you know, I think that's where we have to start with our conversation, because if you stand right down there, you don't see anything.
Well, I appreciate that. And I've worked with a lot of the commissions, and there's a point at which it becomes what some people would call de minimis.
Mhm.
You know, and I'm not, this is borderline de minimis as to what you can actually see.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. I
Yeah,
mean,
I think you're right.
But let's let a subcommittee come to that conclusion,
Yeah.
Guy.
well, there's no argument that against a subcommittee, of
Yeah.
course, but
Yeah.
Right.
to get into things now about 5 inches or 6 inches or blah, blah, blah is just premature.
Well, it might not be, Catherine, in the sense that if we determine that there's visibility, then there's been a discussion amongst the entire commission as to what might be an acceptable revision. So I don't necessarily want to shut down a discussion.
Well, can you answer my question about where we have to consider where we have to consider visibility?
Well, I think you actually said it best, which is once you're out there, the subcommittee makes the judgment as to where that distance is different for just about every condition. I mean, we've done enough subcommittees to know that.
Well, I know that, and this is a very interesting sort of, configuration here.
Mhm.
It's a little
Little-
unusual.
It is unusual.
Jacqueline, did you get a chance to see it?
So
Yeah, staff
Yeah.
went out, Rachel and I both went out. And so basically the point of visibility, we got similar photos to that. The point of visibility where we saw it was actually Rutland Square exiting towards Columbus Ave. And
Correct.
yeah, if you can, I mean, if you want to add on, I think that was like the main point that we saw just because of the location of the roof deck in relation to just the fact that this is kind of like the end of a property in the set of row houses.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Jackie and Rachel. We still have another commissioner who can ask questions if he has any. Peter?
Yes. So Guy, you said the front of the deck is moving back a few feet, right? You showed the hashed line and it's pulling back a couple of feet.
Yes, that's correct. It's about 3
Okay.
feet back from where it is currently.
So there was construction tape along the front in front of the existing wooden deck wall. Can you explain what that is?
I wasn't aware of that. Are you sure of that?
Yeah, I was there this afternoon.
It's possible that it was marked up wrong. This is the dotted line is from a 3D scan, so it's pretty accurate. So it's possible that maybe what, you know what that is? That's the line of the heat pumps. So we also marked up the heat pumps, and the heat pumps, the face of the heat pump is right where the just in front of the existing fence.
And okay, how high are the heat pumps? Because that the construction tape appeared from the street to be at about the height of what a railing, top of a railing would
They're
be.
just slightly lower than the railing. Here it
And
is
the
in
proposed
side view.
railing.
Yeah, here's the proposed railing, which is 42 inches above the decking, and the decking is it's tight to the peak of the roof. It's like 3 or 4 inches above the high point of the roof. And then the heat pump is slightly lower. The top of the heat pump is slightly lower than that. So yeah, that is the line. That's right. They did mock up that.
Okay,
That tape is right
appeared
there.
pretty confusing.
Yeah. Right. But again, you don't see that from Rutland Square. You do see that, from that very steep angle, right, through the trees up in here. It's up right there, I think, is where it is. I mean, the best thing to do is to go out and look at it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any further questions, Peter?
Not at this time, thanks.
Okay, then we'll go to comments. John, may I start with you for comments?
Yes, I think from the discussion, it's very clear it just needs to go to a subcommittee. And I'm sure that there are solutions that can make this work. But as somebody kept saying so many times, you need to go look at it. So
Okay. Chris, any comments?
Of course I do. So I see this building every day. Like I said, I could see it directly out of my bedroom, and I have no problem with what they're proposing, because right now it is it's like a lawn up there with it's horrible with it. I've been up there. I've seen this building. And what this is, it actually would be a nice precedence for even looking across the street where the deck is visible with wooden panels. So this is an upgrade, if you will. This building is almost in original shape right now. You know, it's got the dark mahogany, the dark walnut. It's got everything original. It's gorgeous. The setup is beautiful. So I do ask, one of my comments is, I hope you're going to be true to this building, because there's not a lot of these left anymore. And that's one of my comments about, you know, these buildings that come in and it's pure inside. But our topic really is the deck, and anything is going to be improvement over that, which is barely visible, if visible at all. And my only real concern is the heat pumps in the front. While we can't see them from street level, they do become very visible from somebody on the second floor, third floor of any building on Rutland Square. So, you know, that's something that we might take into consideration, is putting those in the back or in a different spot, because they become visible even in the south end when you're up a floor or two. Maybe not from the street, but they do become visible. So, you know, I think what this is doing is going to improve the landscape. Like I say, take care of this building. It's beautiful. But those are my comments. I don't know necessarily that we do need a subcommittee, because I think that, I mean, that's my opinion, but what they're doing, what they're proposing, I think is good.
I appreciate it. And you know, one of the things we could do, even though it's not really in the purview of the commission, is to put a metal railing in front of the heat pumps and then paint them black, you know, so that they sort of disappear behind the railing.
I like that idea. And also, we were talking about the side of the head house, if you will, or the bulkhead. I say go with the copper, like a standing seam copper. It'll age. You know, rubber's going to look like rubber, no matter if it's black or whatever. Copper's going to be copper. It's going to look more in time with the original materials that were used on the building. And they were all different anyway to begin with. And so, you know, they might have had a jut here or something different there. I think if you use the materials to cover things, I think you're going to be more true to the surrounds of the whole neighborhood.
Yeah, we're happy to do that. It does call a little more attention to it, you know, if it's copper.
But the attention is also to a strong material, something that reflects how the houses were built.
Understood. And by the way, the one of the reasons that this is where it is because we are preserving that beautiful staircase.
Thank you.
You know, so you come up to the top, and this is where the stair up sort of has to be in the plan to make this work. And again, I would have put it elsewhere if I could have, but.
Well, if I see anything come out of the house into a demo, you will have me right at the front door asking why and where it's going. So.
This is a fascinating discussion, but I think we're digressing a bit. I'm going to ask if you have no further comments, Chris. I'll go to another commissioner.
I'm done. Thank you.
Peter?
Yeah, I concur completely. We need a subcommittee for this. The visibility is limited from Columbus Avenue, but to me, the visibility is as pronounced as any other that we've considered, other deck proposals that we've seen. So it just merits a subcommittee. I don't think we need to talk a lot more about it tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Peter. Catherine?
Agreed on the subcommittee. I think that's obvious. And I will say this building is in good hands.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. I have a few comments. I would love to see some kind of configuration that eliminates the little dog leg landing that the staircase comes up to, that, you know, presses up against the visible side of the building. I won't go further than that until I see how visible that is in the mock-up when we're out there. Is it only for a split second? Is it a slot view, or is it really something that's going to be so visible that we need to be concerned about it? So the second thing I want to ask about is the bulkhead itself. I'm a little troubled by it and what it does to the roof profile. Our charge is to preserve the roof profile. That's why decks are not supposed to be visible from the public street. And, you know, this triangular form of the bulkhead is an unusual form that you don't see in the profile, roof profiles of these historic buildings. It becomes an unusual add-on. And in that in of itself will to it. And I'd rather see as little attention brought to this as possible. In fact, I'd rather not see it at all. So, you know, we often have seen just simple bubble hatches on these roofs that open up sideways or that open up on the narrow end. But either way, you know, they are much less visible. I realize there must be a headroom issue or you wouldn't have been proposing this. But if there is a way we can avoid having the intrusion of that bulkhead, that would go a long way in my mind toward approval. Anything you can say about that, Guy?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we do what we've done here because, well, for a couple of reasons, that this is a hatch system that we've used successfully that works well and is easy to operate. It's limited to about 7 feet long. And so to make that work, you have to tip it up like this. And this is precisely what's required, or, you know, in the zoning code for roof access. So it's, you know, it's pretty commonly done.
Why don't we see more of them in the South End? This is the first time I've seen one in 27 years.
Yeah, we've done tons of these ourselves, and this is actually what's described in the zoning code for a bulkhead. But in any event, the answer to your question is yes. I would have to come up with a much longer hatch, and I can get a long. This is a flat glass hatch, so it's not a bubble, but I can get a bubble hatch that's, you know, 8 or 9 feet long. So it would run from here to here, and then it could open sideways. And that would eliminate the need to make it rise up like that. So it would make the profile of the curb lower. And then you would tilt it up and then walk out. So you'd have the same effect. It's just you wouldn't have the triangular shape that I think you're objecting to now.
Right.
And
did you say you could exit sideways?
No, you would have to do the same thing because the stairs coming up like this and lands right there.
Can you go to the cross section?
You would have to step out. Yeah. You would have to step out onto the, you know, onto the roof this way because you don't have a landing. So you couldn't go, you know, into the deck that way. But we could, and I think what you'll see is that this part of that railing system is much harder to see than this part of the head house. You have to get further along, you know, towards the north, you know, up Columbus Ave, if you will, to see in that slot, and it makes it that much more difficult, you know, to actually see the thing. But the profile would be...
Guy, I think that answers my question.
Yeah, so that could be done.
Yeah. And I really appreciate your candid answer. Thank you very much. And I would also volunteer to be on a subcommittee. And it sounds like Catherine volunteered.
And I do.
And if there isn't an objection, or even if there is, I think we're ready for a motion.
So I'll make the motion. The subcommittee is John and Catherine, even though Chris lives across the street. Maybe that makes him in a butter, actually, possibly shouldn't be on the subcommittee. All right, I'll make a motion that we remand this with all comments taken into account to a subcommittee of John Amadeo and Catherine Hunt.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been seconded. And we'll go to public comment. Members of the public will now have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on the application and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand via the Zoom meeting platform. If you are calling in and cannot use the platform, you can press *9 to raise your hand, or you can send your questions to staff via email at southendldc@boston.gov. And Jackie, do we have anybody raising their hand, or did we get any written comments?
No raised hand and no written comment.
Okay, then we'll go right to a vote. Chris,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Catherine,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and the chair votes with the motion, so the motion carries. Thank you very much, Guy.
Thank you.
And we'll set up a subcommittee meeting through staff.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a
Take
nice
good
day.
care. Jackie or Rachel, did the application we skipped over, did the applicant respond?
So just looking at the email again, the project representative said that, well, they were here, but now I don't quite see them in a meeting room. So
Yeah, Sarah, the applicant representative, said they would be doing their best to get on as soon as possible. They said that that would be 7 o'clock. And I think they briefly joined, but I don't think that they're here now.
Okay, it's 6.
Do we have one more design review, or was that the end of design review?
I think that's the end of design review, actually.
Okay.
Jackie.
Oh, good. Can we start without them? I'm sure we have things to say.
I mean, I think it's up to the commission to decide if you want to wait a couple minutes.
Well, can we approve administrative review while we're waiting?
Yes. Good idea.
Okay. Do you need me to read that, Rachel?
You do not.
That was a yes? Oh,
No.
nope. Okay. So we have administrative review, and do I hear a motion to approve?
I move to approve the administrative review.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been seconded, and we'll go right to a vote. Catherine,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and the chair votes with the motion, so the motion carries. What about, can we skip to approving the minutes of the previous meeting?
just
Yes.
bear with me for a quick second. I will skip to the slides for the approved minutes.
Thank you, Jackie.
Of course.
And I will try to get in touch with Sarah again.
Here we are.
Okay, we are looking to ratify the November 4th, 2025 meeting minutes. Do I hear first of all, is there any discussion that needs to be had? If not, I could be happy to take a motion.
Okay, I move to accept the or ratify the minutes from the November meeting.
I will second that.
Okay. Rachel, may I vote even if I missed the meeting? Or should I abstain?
I think you should abstain, but I think that technically you could if you wanted to.
Okay. Well, we'll go for a vote then. Catherine?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And the chair abstains, but the motion carries.
Okay.
Well, that took us all of 4 minutes. So,
Well, they do know that we were ready, that we, were at their point on the agenda, but they weren't here the first
Mhm.
time, right?
yeah. So, yeah, I don't know, there was obviously some communication
Breakdown.
breakdown there. So, Rachel, what do you recommend? Do we have them at the ready or should we move on?
So I'm not seeing them. I haven't heard from the applicant in about 10 minutes. I think that it's unfair to keep the other applicant waiting because they're here.
I thought there wasn't another applicant.
There's an advisory review.
Yeah,
There is?
there is.
There is.
It's
I did not
the
see
same
that.
Plimpton Street.
I didn't see that on the agenda.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yep, it was on there.
It was there with the public, I mean, with the staff comments.
Was it?
No, I'm
Thank you,
kidding.
God.
Um,
Well, I would have believed it because I thought I looked pretty thoroughly.
Touche, John.
It's
It's
after
a-
all the administrative review items, Catherine.
That's why I didn't see
Oh,
it.
Sarah has entered the
Oh,
waiting room.
Sarah's there. Okay. Just in
Okay,
the nick of
bear
time.
with me, everyone, as I bounce back to apologies.
Great, Sarah, we are moving to your presentation. We will make you co-host shortly.
Okay, we have 33 Greenwich Park, and the proposal is to install decorative sconces at the entryway pilasters.
Hi there, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm sorry that I've been back and forth. Driving and Zooming is very difficult.
Oh,
But I'm
dear.
here now.
I hope you're not driving.
I'm not. I stopped. That
Good.
I've stopped, which is good. So
Please give us your full name.
my name's Sarah Dean.
Okay, and when you're ready, we can, we'd love to have you describe your application to us.
Sure. So 33 Greenwich Park, I mean, I think everyone's probably familiar with that street. It's a brownstone. We are proposing to add decorative sconces on the wood pilasters on either side of the main front entry door. I have my presentation in front of me, but I can't share it with you from my phone. But the sconces are a blackened copper finish, and they would go on the facade of the pilasters, hopefully. I also, I've included a picture of the sconces and a height recommendation from the base of the pilaster for them to hang as a drawing. And and I've included precedent images, other images of brownstones that are on the street that have sconces on the pilasters as well. That's basically it.
Sarah,
Okay.
you also, just as a reminder, you did send us another drawing of your second proposal that I'm about to share.
I did. So this option one is our preferred option with the sconces on the face of the pilasters, but we could also, there is space on the inside of the pilasters, on the perpendicular face of them, closest to the front doors, and we could also hang them there at the same height, if that's preferable.
Okay, so I think we'll first ask commissioners for their questions, and then
Sure.
After we go through commissioner questions, we'll get commissioner comments.
Great.
before taking a motion, then we generally ask the public if they have any comments, and then we'll take a vote. So, Catherine, do you have any questions?
Only comments.
Okay. Chris?
Yes, I do. Have you considered putting lights or like a can light or even a surface mount light into the bottom of the stoop roof of the hood?
We haven't, but only because we had wanted to do something decorative. And we thought illuminating either side of the stairwell would A, provide better light, and B, and look nice. And because other brownstones had it on the street, we figured it might be okay.
Okay.
That's my only question. Thank you.
John?
The doors swing out,
They swing in, actually.
they swing in. Okay, that's my only question.
Mhm.
Oh, actually, what's the material on the side?
It's also wood.
The pilasters are wood and the side attachment is wood. Is it have any configuration to it?
It's very, very similar. It's, if not exact, it's very, very similar to the facade as well. So it's paneled like that as well.
Panel. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Peter?
Yeah, there, in the photo, there appears to be a lantern light. Is that, in fact, a lantern light? And is it in the exterior arch or is it in the vestibule area?
It's on the exterior, but it is actually it's a sconce, and it comes out directly above the front doors. So the junction box is directly above the front doors.
It's a sconce.
Can you zoom into the photograph to show us what you're talking about?
It's like a gooseneck mount.
Exactly. It's exactly what it is. It's a gooseneck mount sconce.
It's not letting me quite zoom in.
Meaning there is a light fixture there already?
Correct. And we wanted to move the light fixtures to either side of the doors as opposed to one over the center.
Okay, so the proposal, which I didn't hear the part where you were going to remove an existing light.
I'm sorry, I should have clarified that. It's, but you didn't hear it because I didn't say it explicitly. Yes, we would remove the existing light and put the two lights on either side.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sarah, for that.
You're welcome. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. Okay, you don't need to zoom in then, Jackie.
Yeah, sorry. It's like not letting me zoom in or even zoom in. I think it's because I'm sharing the screen.
No problem. I'm sorry, was it John, you asking questions? I forgot where I left off.
I was done.
Oh, you were done. Okay. So,
May have been Peter.
Peter, did you have any further questions?
Yeah, so your intent is to remove that existing light and then you're just going to tap it off, are you?
Yes, we would finish it as best we can to mimic the exact existing material. So we would paint it exactly the same color or cap it off, whichever the electrician tells us that we are able to do.
And in that arch, is that wooden or is that stone?
The arch is, I believe, stone, but I would need to double check.
I'm pretty sure it's probably wood.
It looks like wood, though.
It's wood. I'm pretty sure it's wood.
It looks wood.
That's not a super is wood.
Okay, that's all. Thank you, John.
Okay. I think all of my questions were answered by the other questions commissioners asked, so we can go right to comments. Chris.
Minor opinions. I prefer the lights from the top. I just because everybody has sconces doesn't mean they're right or precedents, but that's my comment.
Okay. John, would you have any comments?
So we've been reminded by staff, we do not have any purview over the type of light fixture in a residence such as this, but we do have purview over the attachment. And per our regulations, an attachment to a decorative piece of the architectural ornament of the building is not allowed. So I think that we need to find another location for the light or another type of light.
Okay. Catherine, do you have any comments?
Well, it's hard, I'm going to buck the regulations and the guidelines here because when you walk down the street and you see every address almost with sconces exactly where these folks want to put them, it's really tough for us to say, no, you can't do that.
Well, I disagree because those are not approved locations for their sconces.
Well,
That
then
doesn't mean
we
that
disagree.
it's okay to keep doing it. But anyway, you've said what you need to say. Do you have anything further?
Nope.
Okay. Peter, comment?
My comment's really in the way of another question. Given the interchange between you and Catherine, do we know that the other ones on the street have not been approved? So I think we need to determine that.
I'd like to remind the commissioners that a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago, we denied sconces in a similar location at 86 Pembroke Street.
Yep. I was going to bring that up.
We denied the application to drill holes in the pilasters and install lights.
Right. Rachel is correct. And in that instance, we actually recommended that they use the hood to recess a light into, or they could suspend a light from the hood, preferably a non-decorative light, like a can light that's just, circular or square, dark, either suspended from the hood or recessed up into the hood would even be preferable. And you could do a pair of lights as well, recessed into the hood. And that's been done. There are examples of that throughout the district. And, we, think that if the issue is you'd like more light there, then that could be done without having to drill holes into historic ornamental detail, which, as John Freeman said, really is against the regulations. So, we could deny this without prejudice, or we could approve lighting in concept with the proviso that they come back with something that doesn't require drilling into any of the ornamental detail of, other than the underside of the hood, say.
Question, John, was that previous denial at the June hearing?
It was two
I don't
months
know
ago.
if it was June.
I believe it was a little bit later than that.
2 months ago.
But that's not the only time. There have been many times that we've had to deny lighting.
I
and
just might not have been present. I don't recall a recent denial for this. That's
Yeah,
all.
we had
Yeah, 2
the
months.
exact same discussion.
Mm.
It was
I
the
think it
same
probably
proposal.
was in October.
I
Catherine,
think it
you
was
and I were
October,
both
Catherine.
Yeah,
absent
I was
from the
not there.
October.
I wasn't there. Sorry.
Yeah,
And they've already drilled the holes though in that application.
Yep, and we have filed a violation.
Well,
yep. So yeah, it was precisely the same proposal, and we offered that suggestion, and that applicant was open to that suggestion of using the hood, the underside of the hood, to mount or recess lighting into. In fact, they like the recessed idea.
I don't mean to be pedantic about this, but in the period of significance, there were not lighting on either side of doors in the south end.
Mhm.
No decorative
So
lighting.
that's why our regulations are the way they are.
it's kind of interesting that the ones that do have those sconces often have more decorative pieces on their pilasters. And this, it's kind of a shame. They're just so blank. I can see why they'd want to put them there.
I absolutely understand that,
Right.
Yeah,
but it's, you know,
no,
question of,
yeah.
Right.
I don't.
Can I ask it? I'm sorry to, I'm not trying to interrupt. I'm just trying to ask a
Go
clarifying
ahead, Sarah.
question. So if we, it sounds like this is not going to get through, which I understand your reasoning why it's upsetting, but that's okay. But if we wanted to put something underneath the hood, like you were saying, it would have to be a recessed light.
I didn't say that. I said we would prefer a recessed light.
Prefer a recessed light. Okay.
If you suspended the light, it would be preferable that it was nondescript. We can't regulate the light fixture,
Okay.
but preferably it would be nondescript because, as John said, in the period of significance, there were no lights around the doorways.
Okay.
So as nondescript as possible would be more in keeping with the period of the neighborhood.
Okay. Got it. Got it.
And you could do one in the center, or you could split it and have two sort of.
Two and recessed is preferable, but a suspended fixture also is acceptable.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I think you could work with staff.
and
on
just
that.
to clarify a little bit, there are
Mhm.
areas where we have some latitude if it's a life safety issue. So for example, handrails, and other features, you know, fire alarms, we have to allow those.
Right.
Or find a way for them to work. But if lighting on the stairs can be achieved safely enough from a hood, then we can't.
Okay. Okay. That's
That's
helpful.
the
Thank you very
rationale.
much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, so if there is no further discussion, I think we're ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to deny this without prejudice.
I'll
Second.
second that.
I heard two people at the same time, so do we have a second?
I seconded that.
Okay, great, thank you, Chris. And we'll go to, we have a motion, it's been seconded, we'll go to public comment now. So members of the public will now have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on the application and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand via the Zoom meeting platform. If you are calling in and cannot use the platform, you can press *9 to raise your hand, or you can send your questions to staff via email at southendldc@boston.gov. And did we receive anything written, and is anybody raising their hands?
No written comment and no raised hands.
Okay, so with that, I think we'll go to a vote. Sorry, I got distracted for a second. Peter.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
And the chair votes with the motion, so the motion carries. And Sarah, if you have any further questions, staff would be happy to help you on next steps. So,
So if I may, I need to leave, unfortunately. I'm not feeling great. So since this is our last vote, I will leave it to you. And since we've seen the Plimpton Street numerous times, I think I've made my comments.
okay. Thank you, John. I'm sorry you're not feeling well, and rest up.
Thank you. We'll see you guys later. Have a great holiday.
Bye, John. You too.
Yep.
Hi, John. Feel better.
Okay, so we have an advisory now, 52 Plimpton Street. The proposed work is to demolish an existing building in the protection area, build new 7-story building.
Catriel, I just made you the co-host, so you should be able to share your screen if you'd like.
And
Thank you. Hi,
please again,
everybody.
give us your full name before you start presenting.
Yes, my name is Catriel Tullian. I am the principal of Stack Architecture, and we are the architects of record for 52 Plimpton, which is a project that you see in front of you. This is our third advisory review. You guys have been super helpful, so we came back for more. Let me see. Okay. So just a quick recap of the project. The project is located at 52 Plimpton Street, right in the Albany-Harrison corridor. It's a low-rise building with 44 residential units, 8 of which are affordable units. They are very large live-work units for artists. The main feature of the building is a public art gallery that is kind of, sharing the kind of like marking the entry of the project and kind of activating the street edge. It's a public gallery, so the building has this public component. The focus of this advisory review meeting was to further study some of the comments that you had made on the last review meeting, where we were requested to study a way to increase the vertical hierarchy of the main facade of the project. And other comments were, regarding the placement of double doors at the entry, and some further clarification regarding what are the materials of the project. So I'll just go straight to it. On the left side, you see the image of the project as it was presented in the last advisory review. And then on the right-hand side, we are showing our study. And what we've done is kind of group where we have balconies, recessed balconies, and just frame them kind of on this metal edge that is part of the component of this building system, which is it's called a brick shingle. Is a masonry brick that is attached to the facade like a shingle. It's very beautiful. All the projects in the city are using this. And the way the material works is that it's framed with these metal angles that are painted the same color. We're going to paint in black, the same as the railings and all the edges. So we are framing the recessed balconies, and then we are changing the tonality of the masonry that forms that is capping the floor assembly of the balconies to have a darker tone. Here in this view, you can see a little bit of a close-up, kind of what the intention is and what the strategy is to provide this vertical gesture in it. So you can see a detail showing the steel angle that projects about 2 inches beyond the face of the brick, kind of presenting that frame edge. And the brick that comes in a variety of tones and hues and colors. So we would choose a darker tone to be within the inside of that frame, kind of providing this between the shadows and the darker tone. It would enhance the verticality. Here is a few other views, kind of straight on, of the effect of that. Here, turning the other way, here a bit more toward the entry. and in this slide, we're showing, we're showing the entry sequence and the use of double doors. They fit very well, and we're intending to use them in the project. On the right-hand side, you can see kind of like the main palette of materials that we intend to use for the main facade. Peterson brick cover wrapping the entire front of the facade. The top of the building would be a matte gray corrugated metal. The back side of the project that is not quite visible from the street, just kind of sideways, because the cover brick is applied in a almost like a clapper pattern, but made out of masonry. We intend to match this rhythm, this horizontal pattern, with fiber cement lap siding, kind of matching the same dimensionality of the cover brick. And then the base of the entry and the base of the stair is going to be, we'll try to find a warm granite, but we want it to be a stone kind of base, creating the kind of like welcoming entry. The objective is to have a very warm kind of expressive building. The building, as I mentioned, is CLT. That's how we manage, is cross-laminated timber with exposed ceilings. So there is going to be a lot of wood expressed on the project through, you'll see it through the windows, you'll see it on the balconies and on the main entry, on the ceiling. So we wanted to have a warm kind of stone to replicate that. So that's the intention. But we think that a warm granite will do the trick there. What else I have here? Oh, another comment that I wanted to make, because we were reflecting a lot from your comments on the last meeting, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about our intention with the design, the way it was proposed. And in a way, we are kind of, we were kind of approaching the project based on some precedents of the protection area that it have a different character that doesn't emphasize the verticality of the project. We like the project. I mean, we like the project the way we designed it originally, but we also like it when we emphasize the verticality of it. But I just wanted to kind of put it out there that within 2 blocks of the building, there are very large projects that don't have this very vertical kind of emphasis to their apertures. Actually, in 560 Harrison Avenue, which is has this very long facade, kind of tends to emphasize the horizontal character of it, and the windows are kind of in this field. 89 Unit Park is another example, a few blocks north of Plimpton, that has this, very long facade that kind of expresses itself in this long way. And obviously around the corner, 519 Albany Street is also this very large building where the vertical character of the building is not really expressed in it. Most of the buildings that express the verticality of it, in a way, tend to make reference to a structural requirement almost. It's almost like pillars, piers, or columns that are expressed in the facade almost as a need to support the project, to support the building in a structural way. In a way, we think that our project doesn't have that requirement, and so there is an honesty to the way we're using the material in this field. It also allows for the other elements of the project, kind of like in the base, the gallery, the entry, the playfulness of the recessed penthouse floor to express themselves in a little bit more comfortable without so much articulation. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm sorry,
Okay.
and thank you
Thank
for
you,
the
Filusch.
opportunity.
Okay, so we appreciate the attention you put to this and in order to respond to comments that you heard the last time. So thank you. That's what these advisories are for. So I want to hear from my fellow commissioners. I think we can be more casual about the discussion since this is advisory, so you can mix your questions and comments right along. So Chris, would you like to go?
My first question is, I noticed on some of the decks that there are that your brick shingle material is on the sidewalls of some of those decks. Do you just choose some of them, or was that? If you notice on the far right, the third one up has some shingles inside, and there were some on the other end.
Right here and right there. It's an error. It's an error of the model rendering, and I was supposed to fix it, and I didn't get to it, and you just reminded me that I have to fix it. No, we don't intend to have the brick return into the balcony space. The balcony space will be lined with a warm, we think it's going to be Western red cedar or kind of like a similar material that has the same tonality, the same wood expression as the ceiling.
Okay.
So there is a difference between the exterior surface and the interior. Kind of the interior is in the soft is in the interior, and the hard is in the exterior.
So if it's cedar, like you just suggested, would it be installed horizontally, following the bricks or the shingles?
That is a very good point. Yes, we would. I mean, there is the intention here to make sure that we have a tying of the pattern throughout the project to give that cohesive and that clear intent. So yes, I would say that is a good observation. We would want to place it that way so that it kind of matches the pattern of the shingles.
I think that would be nice to see, because my eye goes to the yellow on the inside.
Yes.
As kind of standing out a little bit. And so just following that brick with the cedar to see that a little bit better might, go more to your point of it being just, a very cohesive look without it. It might punctuate the verticality. It might soften it a little bit. We might be right in the middle. So
yeah. John, you're muted.
Thank you. Chris, if you have any other thoughts after we go to other commissioners, we can always come back to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Catherine, any thoughts?
Well, could I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there any photograph showing the context of this building along the street?
There's this building on this side. On the other side, you can see here, there is just an empty parking lot. Hold on. Can I? No.
Maybe go.
Can't zoom in.
Sorry.
Yeah. So there is an empty parking lot next to it.
And then another building.
And then there is this, there is this other building across on the opposite side, which is 48 Plimpton Street, which we're detaching from. We're not touching that. It goes all the way to the property line, and it should have a party wall, but they filled it up with windows back in the day. So now we have to, we want to respect that building, that, you know, to remain operational with all the windows that they put toward our side.
Catriel, does your project own the parking lot?
No, the project is where the empty parking lot is the neighborhood to the right of the project. There is a parking lot that occupies about a third of the front of the site, and the back wrapping around the existing building. Let me see if I can. I have the old presentation here, and I can show you. There you go. So there is this parking lot. These are the existing buildings on the site. This is the parking lot behind the existing building. And you can see here the parking lot adjacent to the building. So the corner of our building is where this tree or this plant, very large weed, is growing. And the opposite side of our project is where the adjacent building is right up to, the adjacent building is actually about a foot into our property.
Yeah, understood. I think the root of Catherine's question there, Catriel, is that when you come for an application, you want to present the context right up front.
Got it.
As much of the context, particularly the street wall, because that's what we're seeing your proposed building against. You know, a full elevation of the street would be helpful.
Thank you, John. Exactly.
And putting your building into context, even though there are blanks on either side of your building.
And is the one that we see here on the left, the corner of that building, is that the big one on the corner?
This one here?
Yeah.
So this one here, you see the little light? Is that one right there?
Yeah. And where is that in the larger photo that you showed of the context? Is that the big building that's on the corner?
No, on the
this one right here.
Oh, what's this big building on the corner on the to the right?
On the right side.
Yeah, right there. What is that?
It's I don't know the exact address. Is this one is the one right behind is 519. So this one, yeah, it should be like 550 Albany. I don't know exactly what it is. It's an old.
That's Albany Street right there.
Yeah.
This is Albany Street.
So are we in the protection area here?
We are.
That's exactly right. Yes.
The advisory is in the.
Yeah. Okay. And the reason we're talking about as much detail as we are, Catherine, I don't know if you remember or if we're here, was that the building that would be removed was considered contributing, and we're reviewing this at district standards.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for that reminder, John. Sorry. Thank you.
Sure thing.
And here is an elevation of the street.
Oh, there you are.
Linton. I knew we had we brought it all on the first presentation, so it's good to come back to bring a refresher. But you can see that, you know, we elected to do a low-rise building. We're very proud of the fact that we managed to make the project work without blowing up. It's a low rise, it's below 70 feet, and the top floor is set back to match the datum of the adjacent building and of the buildings on the street. So we're kind of like reinforcing that street front that is actually missing right now.
Yeah, no, there's no question. It's great that it's not some huge, you know, skyscraper deal. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay,
so,
that's it for me, John. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Catherine. Peter.
Yeah, could you go to the first floor plan, please?
Thank you, I'm glad you asked that, Peter.
This one?
Yes. So I made a comment in an earlier review that I'm troubled by the fact that the wheelchair ramp, the accessibility entrance is secondary, and I was hoping that there could be a ramp system along the front so
Oh,
that
no. He had that to begin with, Peter.
Change that.
Yeah, let me. So we this is an image of what we did for because of your comment, Peter, that
Right.
we used to have the ramp wrapping around the gallery, and after you ask us to unify the main entry and the ramp, we changed the design to this one with where we have this standing V column, and now the main entry, the stairs and the ramp come in on the same area and the same spot and land on the same threshold in front of the doors. That was the response to your comment.
okay. Then
You
I
can see it.
missing.
You can see it here. This is the previous way we were coming up. On the you see the
All
red
right.
is the
I'm sorry,
ramp.
I was careless in my review of the current plan. So thank you.
Sure thing.
I just
Thank you. I
wanted
mean, it's
a
better. The
comment.
building is better for your comment, for sure. It's better
Yeah.
now.
I wanted a common entry for both wheelchair users and ambulatory users.
And yeah, they're all entering through the same doors
Good.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
and starting and finishing in the same place. So Catriel, can you show me a second floor plan? Do you have one with you?
You want to see the units?
Yeah, the whole second floor, not just one unit.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, it's not on this presentation because this presentation is focused. It's all responding, and we've never been asked to show that. Look, this shows the ground floor units.
Yeah, no, this has to do with the balconies. And I needed to see what the floor plan looked like before I make a comment about the balconies.
All right, let me see if
But
I
I'll
can.
make my comment. I'll make my comment without the floor plan. The floor plan just would have made it easier. If you can go back to a facade picture. So I'm going to channel John Freeman, who had to excuse himself with apologies for not feeling well, and talk a little bit about what makes a building that fits in the district. We're in the protection area, but the concepts are similar within the protection area as they are in the district. And that is, buildings of the period typically had a base, middle, and a top, recognizable. There are exceptions, of course, and I'm sure you'll find them for us, Catriel, but basically they're base, middle, and top. And also that there is a dominant sense of verticality. And in those images that you showed of buildings that were uninterrupted by pilasters, there was still verticality in those buildings, and the verticality showed up in the shapes of the windows. All of the windows in those buildings that you showed had windows that were vertical, not square, not horizontally rectangular. And they lined up on top of each other, creating a sense of verticality, even in the absence of pilasters or other kinds of expressions of verticality. So also the context the immediate context within which you sit is between two buildings that have facades that are articulated with vertical pilasters running from top to bottom of the building. So when you're looking at the street wall, you want to make sure that you work within the immediate context, not finding a remote example of something that you're trying to propose here. I really appreciate what you've begun, and I think it's a really good start to group the balcony windows, the recessed balconies vertically. I wouldn't have thought of that myself, but I really like what you did. I don't think it goes far enough though. And this is where I wanted to see the floor plan. I would like to see the spandrel between the spandrel, which basically represents the floor of the balcony, each balcony, be recessed just enough to create a shadow line. And when I say enough to create a shadow line, I'm not talking about 3 inches. It's probably got to be 6 inches or 8 inches or 10 inches. And I realized that would make the balcony smaller, unless, of course, you push the doors back with it. And that, I think, would go a long way toward what you're suggesting would be an element of verticality, because I think the tonality change between the two types of brick shingle look very subtle to me. And in some, strong lights, you might not even see a distinction. Unless you picked a completely different color, like a dark gray. And even with that, I think the absence of a shadow still makes the facade feel flat. And if that's the whole point of the pilasters on the adjacent buildings, is they create those shadow lines, which are really, really strong. And I think that would help with the grouping of the balconies. I really like what you've done with the base of the building. And I love the hood over the extended hood over the entryway and the gallery space, the storefront, and how it extends over a few unit windows. I mean, that's really strong. But at the top of the building, I feel like we're missing a balanced expression. And I realize there are the 4 angled units sitting on top, but those are going to recess once you make them out of the dark gray. And we still need to have some kind of way to finish the top of the building. And, often there are cornices, maybe just a contemporary version of that. It doesn't have to be bold, but right now the facade feels like it's wallpaper that just is cut off at the top. With no particular finish. If there was a way to do that, that would be great. It might also help conceal the balcony rails that we're seeing there, that the top roof deck railings that I think we'd rather not see. So, maybe some kind of cornice could be done to replace what would be visible roof deck railings. So those are my comments. I still think this can be a great contributing building to the protection area, and it's gone a long. It already is going a long way toward doing that, and I'm especially really happy with the entranceway and gallery space. I think that's very successful. And I would want to see you carry that forward into your application. Any thoughts about my suggestions, Catriel?
I take them all with an open heart.
Okay.
I enjoy working with the commission, because every time that we do a project and we work with you, the project is better for it every single time. And I say that with all honesty. Even if I don't like some of your comments and I don't agree in the moment, it's just like, God, it forces me to get back in there. And all of a sudden, I mean, every time you take another crank at the project and design it again, it's better. So I know that very well now. So I'm gonna see what I can come up with to put some terminus at the top. I totally understand. You see how I try to approach the tripartite concept in a more contemporary way that is in fitting with what we're trying to do, right? So you have this eyebrow that kind of defines the ground floor. The ground floor peels inward, kind of inviting the public to come in. That also is part of that base. And then the top is this livelier, crenellated kind of shape that kind of serves as a terminus. We may be able to create something, and I'm thinking that there may be something that has to do with the way this material is applied, that can be a way to express a cornice element, but I don't know yet. I have to pull up my sleeves and get in it.
And just to be clear, and I know you understand this, but I mean at the top of the terracotta shingles and not at the top of the crenellated penthouses. I think best to leave those as simple as possible.
I agree. Yeah, it's to cap the masonry surface.
That's
right.
right.
Terminus, yes.
John, I would say, just looking at the rendering, I think it's, at least to my eye, it's very effective in creating that verticality, feeling. My eye anyway sees, wow, they're almost like bays, the effect. I think it's gone quite a way toward achieving that, but
it certainly has, and I acknowledge that. When you look at the left image and then look at the right image, there is a huge step towards achieving that verticality, and I like the choice that you made, Catrill, in grouping the balconies. I just think I'm just worried if it's subtle with just a slight change in tone and no change in plane, and that's what I worry, that the rendering may be showing it more strongly than it.
Well, I wondered about that too. Is it just
Could you match the granite that's at the base, maybe for that spandrel at each one of those? I mean, so change material completely or face it. That would,
or maybe use the gray,
the darker color
cement board, the darker gray. I think the granite, he's looking for a light color. I think a darker color would be better. And since you've got that material on the side wall of the building, maybe it gets repeated in those balcony floors.
Yeah, we could test changing the material and see what that looks like.
Right.
I think probably we're talking about very subtle changes, and I think that we need to kind of like bring our entire 3D model and a few notches up to another level of quality, so we can work on these subtleties, right?
Yeah, this is honing. There are no radical changes here.
Right.
We're honing what's already good. And this has good bones.
Great.
So and we're just honing and polishing. So yeah, I look forward to seeing progress. It gets better.
We'll also be able to maybe like bring some materials to show you what the difference in tone and things like that. This brick comes in a very large array of tonalities, from almost black to almost cream white. So there is a lot to work with.
Right. And just to give you a preview into the application process, when you come before us for an application, depending on, you know, how well we get through the basics, like the demolition of the existing building we have to approve first, and then the, you know, the concept, the massing, you know, the height and the massing and all of that, you know, that may take us a whole meeting, and you may have to come back with materials. We would still want you to present materials, but we may not be able to decide on all of those materials right away. And then, you know, there may be a second meeting where we get into the nitty gritty of the materials. But but you know, if things go even more smoothly, we might get through all of it in one meeting. But, you know, with a new construction like this in a big building, it sometimes takes more than one.
And that'll be fine with us.
And I'm not looking for any more work for ourselves either. If we can get through it in one meeting, power to us.
Great.
So, so anyway, that's great. And we appreciate your collaborative spirit, and it's welcome. And we look forward to our next meeting with you.
Same here. Thank you so much for your time and your great comments.
Great. Thank you, Catriel. So I think we've covered everything on the agenda except for staff updates.
That is
Thanks, Catriel.
right.
Looking great.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you, Catriel.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. So any staff updates, Rachel or Jackie?
None that I can think of that comes to mind other than have a happy holiday. Thank you everyone for everything that you do.
Well, thanks to
yeah.
you and Rachel, for Pete's sake. Wow. It's
Hopefully I'll
great.
see some of you on the 13th.
I do have a question. Are we going to see the Ben Franklin project come back to us?
Yeah, what's going on with that?
We have not heard anything about that project for quite some time.
I'm going to let you know that I have.
Oh, good. Let's hear it.
Yeah. Apparently, the project has been sold.
Oh my, really? So it's not Haseen as the architect anymore?
Correct. And I took a phone call from the new developer because it's somebody I've worked with before, but I shut the conversation down almost instantly and said that he would need to approach staff.
So
but I'm going to warn you that he talked to me about height. And I said, I can't talk to you anymore.
Well,
good job, John. Okay. Thank you for that heads up. We appreciate it.
Can we know who the new owner is?
Yeah. It's somebody we've seen before, Jordan Washer. And he did a project on Tremont Street that had...
It wasn't that church, was it?
No. That had an awning that came out over the sidewalk. And anyway, I can't remember it exactly. It was a long time ago.
The Atelier? Atelier? Atelier?
No.
No, it wasn't Atelier. But it was... Anyway, it was an unusual building. It wasn't a townhouse project. It was a bigger building project and residential. So anyway, that's what he does. And he just built that building called 40 Trinity Place, which is behind Trinity Church and the John Hancock Tower. It's a big glass tower that just went up.
The hotel.
Yeah,
Raffles.
it's a mix of hotel and condo. Yeah.
It's a Raffles, yeah.
Raffles Hotel, right.
By the way, does anybody know what's going on? I hear pile driving every day. There's something going on. I just don't know where it is.
The pile driving for the Animal Rescue League.
Is that what it is,
Well,
Chris?
that's one. I mean, I don't know how you can feel that all the way in ink block, but they are pile driving.
I'm not saying I feel it, but I sure hear it.
Huh. Wow.
And it is over that way. Is that
Could be.
By my big eyes that see everything, that's what I see going on.
Uh-huh.
okay? Okay.
Well, and that sound could travel right down the Mass Pike. To the
Yeah.
ink block.
It is coming from that way. Well, thanks. I just
So-
wondered.
Also, is there any update on the Alexandra?
So we have not had an update, but we are actually planning to see if we can find out anything else because we have not heard anything.
I don't know if you want to report back to us or ask them to come back to us to report to us a status report. But either way, it would be nice. We haven't heard from them in quite some time after that very encouraging approval.
Yeah. Oh, I think
Yeah.
they're having a big Christmas party there.
Yeah. And speaking of which, thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
I hope to see a lot of you there, all of you, but
Hope
Please.
it's not a blizzard.
Yeah, the 13th, right?
Yep.
And
Rachel can vouch I know how to throw a party.
It's really great.
okay,
Highly recommend.
okay. Well, I think we're ready for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
I
Okay,
second that. I've got a hungry dog.
okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.